James Gunn's Superman, 2025, isn't just another superhero movie, it's the launchpad for the entire new DC universe and the most ambitious attempt yet to reboot one of the most iconic characters in all of pop culture. With a fresh face under the cape, a bold shift in tone, and a director who brings both fanboy love and irreverent style, this Superman promises to fly higher, smile brighter, and maybe crack a few jokes along the way. But does it succeed in lifting the DC universe into a new era, or does it buckle under its own cape? The story begins not with Krypton's destruction, not with Smallville's golden fields, but with a fully active Superman already present in the world. Clark Kent, now played by David Corenswet, is in his early days as Superman. He's still finding his place in a complicated world that doesn't quite know what to do with him. Gunn avoids retelling the origin and instead throws us into a world where Superman is both a beloved symbol and a source of global anxiety. When he intervenes in a dangerous conflict between the fictional nations of Jarhanpur and Borovia, the world begins to ask whether Superman is a guardian angel or a potential threat. This uncertainty becomes the perfect opportunity for Lex Luthor, played masterfully by Nicholas Hoult. Luthor, in this version, isn't a cartoonish villain or a clownish megalomaniac. He's cold, calculating, and terrifyingly obsessed. His hatred for Superman is so intense that he's willing to destroy the world if it means defeating him. Through media manipulation, military alliances, and even experiments in genetic engineering, Luthor sets a plan in motion to bring Superman down, and possibly replace him. Alongside this main plot, we're introduced to the Justice Gang, an early version of what will later become the Justice League. Green Lantern, portrayed hilariously and effectively by Nathan Fillion, brings swagger and sarcasm. Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathegi, is one of the most compelling new characters in the movie, intelligent, focused, and calm. Then there's Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Merced, a talented actress whose character sadly doesn't get enough to do. She shows up, flies around, punches a few things, and then fades into the background without ever being explored in depth. One of the most controversial additions to the film was Krypto, Superman's loyal superpowered dog. Many fans worried that including a flying laser-eyed pup would turn the film into a cheesy cartoon. Fortunately, James Gunn knows how to handle strange characters with heart. Krypto is a highlight. He doesn't talk, thank Rao, but his emotional connection with Superman adds depth to Clark's loneliness and struggle. Kids will fall in love with him, and even skeptical adults may shed a tear or two. Production-wise, Superman 2025 is a major Hollywood event. Filming began on February 29, 2024, a fun nod to Superman's canonical birthday, and locations included Atlanta, Norway, for the Fortress of Solitude, and high-tech sets built specifically for Metropolis. The movie was shot on IMAX Red cameras with a reported budget of $225 million. The CGI is mostly strong. Fans who were worried after the film's first trailer showed some rough effects can relax, most of the action looks great. Superman's flight, heat vision, and the explosive battles all feel dynamic and exciting. That said, a few late added scenes, especially during the final battle, show rushed or unfinished effects, likely added during reshoots. The casting was a big talking point before release. David Corenswet had big red boots to fill following Henry Cavill. Many fans doubted whether he could embody Superman's physicality and presence. As it turns out, Corenswet does a fine job capturing the spirit of Superman. He's kind, hopeful, and powerful. However, when it comes to Clark Kent, he doesn't leave much of an impression. Part of that is due to the script giving Clark very little to do. There's almost no exploration of the classic, dual identity, conflict that makes Superman so compelling. Clark is present, but the story is far more interested in the guy in the cape than the guy behind the glasses. Rachel Brosnahan, on the other hand, delivers a strong and layered performance as Lois Lane. She's smart, passionate, and capable, a power woman through and through, but she's also allowed to show flaws and vulnerabilities. Sometimes she's reckless or unreliable, but that makes her feel real. Her chemistry with Corenswet works well enough, even if it doesn't set the screen on fire. It feels like the beginning of a relationship rather than a fully realized romance. Then there's Nicholas Hoult. Forget your doubts, he may be the best live-action Lex Luthor ever. He brings an unsettling calmness, a clinical intelligence, and a burning obsession that never tips over into melodrama. His Lex is a man who hates Superman not because he's evil, but because he genuinely believes Superman is dangerous to humanity. That kind of villain, one who thinks he's the hero, is always the most dangerous. Of course, no Superman film in the 2020s is complete without fan division. Gunn's version has triggered endless debates between fans of the new DCU and die-hard supporters of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Snyder's Superman was dark, brooding, and philosophical. Gunn's Superman is brighter, quirkier, and more comic-accurate. Snyder fans argue that his version had more emotional weight and gravitas. Gunn fans claim that this is the Superman they've waited for, hopeful, optimistic, and heroic without being tortured. Then there's the inevitable comparison between David Corenswet and Henry Cavill. Corenswet is undeniably charming and fits Gunn's vision well. But Cavill remains a fan favorite for a reason. He had both the physical presence and the emotional depth that made Superman feel like a mythic figure. Many fans believe Hollywood wasted Cavill's potential by cutting his run short. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that. He deserved a brighter, more hopeful Superman story, maybe even this one. So, does Superman 2025 work? Mostly, yes. The action scenes are thrilling, arguably the best in any superhero film of the past 10 years. Superman battles clones, soldiers, and even gravity in stunning aerial combat that's easy to follow and packed with emotion. The humor, classic James Gunn style, mostly lands. The audience laughed, smiled, and enjoyed the lighter tone. But the jokes sometimes undermine emotional moments. Just when a scene starts to dig deeper, bam! Someone makes a silly face or cracks a one-liner, and the depth vanishes. There are weaknesses. The script is overcrowded with characters and side plots that distract from the central figure. Superman feels like the most important person in the movie, but not always the main character. Scenes bounce quickly between heroes, subplots, and world politics, and that can leave viewers struggling to emotionally connect with Clark. Worse, Superman himself feels too weak. Yes, he's young, but this Superman gets beat up so often it becomes distracting. He bleeds, groans, limps, and even has to recharge with sun exposure multiple times. It creates tension, yes, but also undermines the idea of Superman as the world's greatest hero. Critics are divided, though the overall response is positive. The film holds strong on Rotten Tomatoes with an 82% critic score and 93% audience score. Some call it a fresh, heartfelt reinvention. Others say it's a busy, shallow movie trying too hard to juggle too much. Viewers seem to enjoy it more than critics, especially younger audiences and families who appreciate the humor and tone. Financially, the film had a solid start with $122 million in US and Canada and $95 million internationally in its opening weekend. But with a $225 million budget, Superman 2025 will need serious legs to turn a profit. Whether it becomes a hit or just barely breaks even depends on international reception and repeat viewings. Most importantly, this film marks the first chapter in the new DC universe, titled Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. It sets up future movies like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, The Authority, and Batman, the Brave and the Bold. It hints at larger cosmic threats and deeper moral questions. The success, or failure, of Superman 2025 will determine the tone and direction of every DC film that follows. In the end, Superman 2025 is far from perfect. It's overloaded, sometimes uneven, and occasionally frustrating. But it's also brave, warm-hearted, exciting, and filled with genuine love for the character. It's not the definitive Superman movie, but it might be the right one to start a new era. With better balance, more focus on Clark Kent, and a bit more seriousness where it counts, the future of DC might just fly after all.